You know a spot, but not just a spot, the spot. Actually, with the all-new Nissan Frontier, you know a bunch of them. One for hitting a trail. One for catching a wave. One where this happened.
Yo, where'd our tent go?
Another where the fish get bigger every time you tell the story. Some spots, you made your mark. Others marked you. And one, okay, let's stay away from that one. But the key to these great spots? Being able to reach them in the first place. Your spot is out there. Find your frontier in the all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier. With best-in-class standard 310 horsepower, advanced tech, and 281-pound-foot of torque. Comparison based on 2022 Frontier S versus latest in-market Ward small truck segment. Base models compared based on manufacturer's website.
Spring it on with 40 to 70% off almost everything at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com. Matching styles for the family are on sale too. Shop it all through April 12th.
This is Donald Parham of the LA Chargers, and you're listening to Chargers Unleashed, part of the LAFB Network. Stay jiggy.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Today's show, of course, is being brought to you by Charger Bowl Family, Brewery X in Anaheim, UFC Fit in Temecula. Dan, serious question for you, sir.
Oh, okay. I like these.
How are you feeling? We just had our therapy session just a couple days ago. We had to get everything out. The emotions were all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay. We know what we had to deal with this past Sunday. Much like the tweet that you put out earlier this week, we're on to Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
But just tell me, Friday before game time, how do you feel today?
You know, I feel kind of good, actually. Like, it's Friday.
In the high-pitched voice. I feel kind of good.
No, it's Friday. We're going up against
Lots
Kansas
of
City Chiefs on
conviction in
Sunday.
that answer from you.
Look. It couldn't have gone any worse in terms of crap that happened last week. This is one of the key matchups that I think all Chargers and Chiefs fans, to be honest, are looking forward to. We got the primetime announcing crew. You got Jim Nantz, Tracy Wolfson, Tony Romo. Maybe he's going to predict some more futures. But, this is it. We get to see Justin Herbert v. Patrick Mahomes for real. They have tape on him in Arrowhead now with fans. It's going to be lit. It's going to be crazy. And we've already seen a bunch of Chargers fans making their way out to Arrowhead. I'm excited because I think this is one of those games that you bring in a Brandon Staley for. We'll get into all the specifics about this game. But one of the matchups that I'm super excited for, and I talked a little bit about this with Nate Taylor earlier, is how is the offensive mastermind of Andy Reid going to go up against kind of the defensive juggernaut in a Brandon Staley? For some reason, that fascinates me. And I know Brandon Staley is probably licking his chops and has been looking forward to this game all offseason. And so I'm ready to go. Let's get into it. Oh, you do not sound ready to go. You do not sound ready to go.
I'm fine. I was just going to say spoiler
I'm
alert.
fine.
I was just going to say spoiler alert. By the time that this show is over with, Dan and I may not share the same opinion. As much of a surprise as that may be.
Shocker.
Who's been watching this show long enough. But Dan, let's get into it. Let's break this down. All right. So obviously we have to start with the matchup. Both teams now coming off of a loss. Kansas City literally did something that they've never usually do, and that is shoot themselves in their foot. They pulled a page from the Chargers book, essentially, is what they did. They gave the ball back twice to the Ravens, and at the very end of the game, end up losing that. Now you have a Chiefs team playing at home, coming off of a loss, as if you didn't want them to be any more aggravated when they have to go up against the Chargers, who essentially gave away the game to the Dallas Cowboys in the fashion that they did. So now you have two teams sitting at 1-1. Just like all the experts predicted, the Broncos and the Raiders are atop the AFC West, with the Chiefs and the Chargers essentially playing for third place this coming Sunday. So,
Derek Carr leading the entire NFL in passing yards. Everybody knew that was coming.
Yep. Who had that on their bingo card? But Dan, obviously this game starts and ends with, how are the Chargers going to contain Patrick Mahomes throughout this game? He has proven time and time again that he can basically do whatever he wants with the football. He's essentially Uncle Rico. He could throw footballs over mountains. He could put it wherever he wants. Doesn't matter if it's rain, sleet, or snow. Defensively, considering the way that especially the run game played such a big factor in the Chargers' loss this past week, I definitely don't see that being the case. I think it's going to be the Patrick Mahomes show as usual. But again, looking at this, and we have an injury update from today as far as what the outlook is going to be. And this is not going to be easy, as it never is against Patrick Mahomes. But defensively, just before we get into all the details, I mean, how do you look at this? How is this something that the Chargers can go about at least slowing Patrick Mahomes down?
I think everybody wants to know that. I said it earlier. I know that teams get desperate and they feel that they just get burned by Patrick Mahomes or Tyreek Hill or Kelce all the time. But I do not want to sit here and see this Brandon Staley defense, which I'm very excited to see. But we have witnessed Patrick Mahomes burn the Chargers every single time we blitz him. And so I kind of want to see more of that multiple disguise in front and coverage, less so blitz. So show cover 3, end up being cover 2. Show you're rushing 7, end up rushing 3. Whatever, vice versa. I want to see this as a heady football matchup, because for so long it has felt like we have been outsmarted by the Chiefs and arguably many teams. And so the path forward for us is, I think we're going to have to sustain probably somewhat long drives on defense, hopefully stop them from scoring touchdowns at some point, and give your defense multiple opportunities to make a play. That's what I mean by that is, don't go 3 plays, 80 yards on defense. Let it be a 12-play drive. Give your defense 12 opportunities to confuse Patrick Mahomes once. And when/if you do, make sure you catch the football, i.e. Nasir Adderley. You had a great game last week. You couldn't finish with the football in your hands. Folks got to finish and cause chaos and cause disruptive turnovers, or else it's going to be a long day for this defense.
Yeah, everything you said there is pretty spot on, Dan. I mean, how are you going to do this? How are you realistically going to do this? Patrick Mahomes can score at any opportunity that he sets foot on the field. So I do like what you said as far as the disguising of the blitzes, because first off, the Chargers shouldn't be blitzing that much in general. I know you have the great stats on that for Patrick Mahomes against the blitz. But even so, when you look at what the Ravens did to them last week, when you look at what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did to him in the Super Bowl, they had a front four that could get after it to where they didn't have to worry about blitzing. The Chargers, unfortunately, they don't have that type of personnel that can win consistently with just 4 guys. And especially now you have key injuries along the defensive line that are not going to help you in that regard. So, yeah, you have to get creative with it, especially if we're the big deal that everybody's been making about Kenneth Murray. The middle of the field is going to have to be well covered. The linebackers are going to be feeling some work, whether it's Tranquil, White, or Murray this week. And this was actually something I was going to say is, I know that everybody's hyped for this game. I know we talked about it. Everybody's looking forward to watching it. Arguably nobody is more hyped up on this game, Dan, than number 33. If you go back to 2018, Dan, the first time that the Chargers and the Chiefs played each other in 2018. Do you happen to remember what Travis Kelce, what his final stats were in that first game of that year?
It wasn't good.
It wasn't good. It was one catch, and it was for 6 yards. And who do you think had the great responsibility of covering him for that afternoon?
And that would be a one Derwin James. And look who we did not have covering Travis Kelce for the last few years, and how'd that turn out?
Right. Exactly. And then again, now you go to that overtime win that the Chargers got. 29-28 was the final with the Mike Williams 2-point conversion at the end. Kelce had a little bit better of a day, 7 catches, 61 yards, but you kept him out of the end zone.
I think that was not overtime. I believe that was just at the end of the game, 4 quarters, walk off.
Yes. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I said overtime win. I apologize. Yeah. Yes. End of regulation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, another pedestrian at best game from Travis Kelce.
Yep.
I said this to you, and this goes into the injury news that we're going to be talking about here in a second. Derwin James's responsibility should be exactly the same. 2019, I think, he came back off of his injury. He only ended up playing 5 games, wasn't a real focal point of the defense for where the team was at that point. Obviously, we lost him in 2020. He gets to come back, and he's going to have the responsibility of covering Travis Kelce once again. I mean,
100%.
You look at what Travis Kelce did last week against the Ravens. It wasn't even that long of a pass. And Travis Kelce somehow, was able to make chicken soup all over the Ravens defense as he rumbled, bumbled, and stumbled all the way to the end zone.
Okay, Chris Bourbon.
Off essentially a 10 or 12-yard pass from Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's just what this Chiefs offense can do to you. That's how well-oiled of a machine that they are.
What's most likely going to happen is, at least this is what I would want to see when you asked about what can this defense do. If Derwin can be isolated on Kelce, one-on-one, I think I'm happy with that matchup every time. And if we need to double team Tyreek Hill and just by hell or high water, do not let him get a long touchdown. Cool. Make wide receiver 3 beat us. I don't want to see McCole Harmon beating us. Have it go down depth chart. And I don't see that happening if we can stop those 2 guys. Hill and Kelce are the 2 I'm scared about. And so if we're looking at kind of, if I'm the defensive coordinator for the Chargers, I want to, 1, make sure that I have Kelce and Hill. I want 3 people on those 2 at all times. I want someone to be spying on Mahomes, arguably every time. And then from there, just don't be the team that lets Kansas City go from the worst running team in the NFL to somehow running it up our throats every time.
You know that's what's going to happen, though, man. You know that's what's going to happen. Now, to your point, that regulation win that the Chargers got with the 2-point conversion at the end of the game, that strategy that you were talking about, make your wide receiver 3 beat us, that's exactly what the Chargers did in this game. Because it wasn't Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill that led the Chiefs in receiving yards. It was Damian Williams. And it was still only 6 receptions for 74 yards. I mean, statistically wise, defensively, this is maybe historically the greatest stat that the Chargers have put forth against the Chiefs. Even if you go all the way back to Alex Smith quarterbacking this team. I mean, no receiver for the Chiefs had over 74 yards in that game. And it wasn't even Kelce or Hill that led the teams in reception yards this game. I mean, this is the type of impact that a Derwin James can make. So, yeah, I get you. Make your wide receiver 3 beat us, which in this case, McCole Harmon's not looking too bad. He's not looking too bad to start, but it's always the one thing that the opposing team that they don't do well, that they seem to always do really well when they play the Chargers. And that's for any team. So yes, I'm still just as weary of you are, because you cannot forget about an individual named Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield, given all these weapons.
Yeah. And so again, we're getting right now in kind of the overarching themes of what we are hoping to see and what we hope to not see. I put out something today asking for us to not blitz Patrick Mahomes on Sunday. And a lot of people agreed. Some people disagreed. And some people wanted to have us blitz him all day long. You alluded to the stats of Patrick Mahomes when he is blitzed. How about this for some stats?
This is going to hurt.
Last year, he was blitzed, I want to say 140 times roughly. He was sacked 4 times. So 4 of the 135, I believe it was, times he was blitzed, he was actually sacked. So that's not good. He then completed, I believe, 69% of his passes for something like 1,200 yards, 16 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. All season, 16 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in 135 dropbacks and only 4 blitzes. And to tack on top of that, this year, the Chiefs are currently 3rd best in allowing only 2.9% of dropbacks ending up in a sack. So you're not getting to him anyways. You have to beat him with patience and give your defense opportunities for them to make a mistake on offense. That's how you win. You don't win by pressure, I'm telling you. It's kind of like what we saw with Tom Brady. You almost never blitz him because he will dissect that all day long. So the keys to this game are, can your guys play smart coverage and take advantage of opportunities in front of them? Because the Chiefs are going to give you points on defense. Their defense is not good, like at all. They are literally the worst in red zone defense. They are 0 for 8. 8 times their defense is on the field in the red zone. 8 times their defense is giving up touchdowns. Now, you could argue, well, what's going to break? That or the Chargers' offense? Because our offensive red zone is atrocious. We're like 30%. So one of those things has to give. But if we can't, 1, offense has to score points. 2, we have to be able to at least like somewhat contain the explosiveness of this offense. Like, this sounds crazy. If we can hold them to like 27 to 30 points, like, I feel okay. But we said it last week against Dallas, and look what happened there.
Yeah, you really have to look at it from that standpoint. And that's why I spoke about, when I was reading off the stat that the Chargers have, what was it? I think they were 5th in total offense, 13th in total defense. And that's looking through a keyhole backwards because it's not really telling the full story right now. Because you go to the Washington game, the Chargers knock Ryan Fitzpatrick out in the first half. They go to Taylor Heineke and, valiant effort, but still didn't put up any fantastic stats. Definitely wasn't the same type of game that he had a week later against the Giants. And then last week, you have Dak Prescott, but he threw for 277, 0 touchdowns, but that's only because he didn't need to throw because the run defense was so porous for this team that Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard were just able to shred them for over 200 rushing yards. So this really is going to be their first biggest test. Not to say that they don't know that, obviously, going up against Patrick Mahomes. But Dan, even again, going back to this game that I'm referencing, Patrick Mahomes still went 24-34 for 243 yards and 2 touchdowns. And this is the game that the Chargers won. So, you're not going to stop him. Let's just figure that out right now. He's going to beat you. There's going to be blitzes that you're going to say, oh, my God, this guy is just incredible. He's probably going to, do a double handspring and throw the football with his eyes closed and somehow complete it to Tyreek Hill 40 yards down the field. We all know that that's coming. But slowing him down, man, is really the only thing that you can do. So defensively, let's break this down, Dan. To you, obviously, we could be the, Captain Obvious right here and say, who needs to have a big game? Obviously, it's Derwin James. Derwin James will be a huge focal point to this defense as far as taking players away.
Mm-hmm.
But give me one in particular that you're looking at that you say, this is another guy that has to contribute big time and have a huge game.
Oof, that's tough. I think we're gonna have to see. And again, we like Joey Bosa is questionable for Sunday, but we're gonna have to see some action from our front four. Now, whether that is Nuosu, whether that is Kaiser White, who has been very good so far, or Joey Bosa, or Fackrell. Like, we have to see some guys disrupt things just mano on that defensive line. And you mentioned it. Like, this seems like a big Drew Tranquil game to me. This seems like you're going to have to get something from him because he's running all over the place. And this has kind of the makings of, like, there's going to be a lot of pressure on this young secondary. Chris Harris is not going to be out there. You're going to see a lot of folks on islands like Asante Samuel Jr., shout out Rookie of the Week. Nasir Adderley is going to have to show up. Alohi Gilman's probably going to be there. I'm not sure about Mark Webb if he's going to be out there. But, like, there's going to be big time opportunities for those guys. Mike Davis, I think, is probably going to be the one that's going to be covering Tyreek Hill over the top, is my guess.
He's going to have to. He's going to have to just because the speed factor alone.
But again, those are probably the players that I think are going to have to shine on defense the most. Are there any that I missed that you think would need to shine more?
I'm interested to see how Brandon Staley is going to utilize Asante Samuel Jr. for this game, and especially with Chris Harris being out. Because I said this before we jumped on the show. Last week, we had heard about it all offseason. It's not a secret. When Chris Harris was not going to be playing in the slot, it was going to be Derwin James that was going to be covering that position. You had him in there last week, and he had some good moments throughout that game. This game in particular, I don't believe that you can put Derwin James consistently in the slot. You're going to have him all over the field. I get that. But Derwin James should solely be there to stop Travis Kelce, come in and occasionally on a disguised blitz, but do not have him roving the field the amount of time that you had him in the last game in the slot position. So that brings me to Asante Samuel Jr. Can you disguise coverage a different way? Because we all know that Asante Samuel Jr. can play both the outside and the inside. So do you move him around? Yes, I think that Mike Davis has to have a huge game for this. And he had his share of bad moments throughout the Dallas game as well. So he's going to need to step up mightily. Honestly, I was thinking about this. I actually, if it wasn't for his top speed in Tyreek Hill, I love the idea of putting Asante Samuel Jr. on Tyreek Hill for everything underneath. Because, like, Asante Samuel Jr. is freaking quick. Mm-hmm. Like, he has some recovery that I have not seen in a minute. He doesn't have, like, the long distance speed that Tyreek Hill has. And that's why you need some over-the-top coverage. But I wonder if there's going to be something there that we don't know about yet. Because, like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, this team is going to make plays on offense. Like, they just are. I think they have the most average points in the NFL per drive at like 3.5 points per. Their fourth and third down conversion percentages are third best scoring offense in the league so far through 2 weeks, which I know is small sample size, but still. Like, they're going to get down the field. It's just like the Chargers. Like, their offense works. It's just like, can we make a couple of those either field goals or turnovers? Like, that's the difference of this game. Because weirdly enough, Jake, and I put a half the statistic, I think it was yesterday. The fewest drives in the NFL through 2 games is the Chargers. They only have 16 total drives on offense through 2 games. Second fewest drives, Kansas City Chiefs. So essentially, second fewest amount of drives, yet they're still third best scoring team, which means, like, they're converting at a high clip. If we can, like, slow that down just a bit, that's our avenue for success. But again, can we do it? That's you heard Nate Taylor talk about it on our previous episode. Like, there's going to be chaos in order for this team to win.
And can the team like withstand that and almost benefit from it? Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire never fumbles the ball, and then randomly he does. Like the Chiefs are out all of their offensive line in the Super Bowl. Like that's chaos. Like you got to do something with that. So, like, can we capitalize on those opportunities when chaos ensues? Because look, it's in Kansas City, man. Like those fans are going to go crazy. And do I think we're going to stop them? No. But like I think we have the guys and the coaching staff to come up with a way to create opportunities. And that's like we're at the point, like this team is damn good. Like they're arguably the best team in the NFL. And some breaks are going to have to go our way. Like that's just the truth.
One thing I'll say, one last thing about Asante Samuel Jr., Dan, and then I'll let you turn it over to the offense. And this literally just hit me right now. Not to say that, because just going to your theory as far as the possibility of him being the one to cover Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I get it. It's enticing. It's mouth-watering. Not saying that it should happen or shouldn't happen. You're a little bit wary having just a rookie play up against one of the best wide receivers in the league. But at the same time, Dan, the minute I thought of that, I stopped myself and I thought, this is the same kid that in practice, albeit in practice, tapped in to say, I want Keenan Allen. So I'm sure that he's in Brandon Staley's ear, has been in his ear all week in practice saying, Coach, you got to give me some reps against Hill. You have to. I want him. So
I think we're going to see it. I really do. Like, I really do. But as much as we're sitting here talking about what needs to go wrong for the Chiefs, like, enough of that. Like, this team has talked about it often. Like, it's about us. It's about the Chargers. And enough of how potent Kansas City's offense is. Like, we got a damn good offense, too. And, like, if we could just finish it. Like, get into the end zone. Stop making stupid penalties. Have the refs on your side just a little. Like, just a little. Like, we'll be fine. Like, Justin Herbert, top 5 quarterback right now. Like, the dude is probably, I don't know, Jake, would you say, of the entire teams, both sides, Kansas City and the Chargers, how high would you put Justin Herbert on, like, the top players on the field? Like, obviously, Mahomes won. Like, where would you put Herbert? Like, he's in my top 5. Like, we got dudes.
You have to. That shouldn't even be a question.
So having that as a quarterback, like, you got a guy. Like, so flip the script, okay? Chargers offense is damn good. Chargers offense has a ton of playmakers. Chargers offense is also healthy. Aside from Brian Bulaga, which we'll have to figure out how we're going to chip with Storm Norton with some tight end / running backs. But who's going to stop the Chargers? You got the Honey Badger. Tyrann Mathieu is going to be covering someone. Guy's super smart. Tries to trick folks in interceptions all the time. Did it to Lamar Jackson last week. Like, who's going to be on Keenan Allen where you're thinking, oh, Keenan's going to have a rough day? Who's going to be stopping Mike Williams in a jump ball or a slant? Like, who's covering 6'8" Donald Parham? Josh Palmer. Austin Eckler's going to have a field day. Like, as much as we want to talk about how hard it is to stop this Chiefs team, they're saying the same thing about this Chargers offense because their defense sucks.
So,
did it work?
Simple answer to your question, Dad. Who's going to stop the Chargers offense? It's the Chargers. They're going to stop themselves if what we've seen through 2 games and their lack of being able to finish in the red zone, that will be their ultimate demise. Yes, the Chargers are going to get their points too, especially against this Chiefs defense, who, if I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, keep me honest, is giving up the most total yardage of any defense. That's both rushing and receiving, I believe. So they're bottom of the barrel as it relates to giving up total yardage. And believe it or not, especially after the game that the Chargers had last week in their porous run defense display, the Chiefs are also last in the league in rushing defense. But let's also, again, let's remember who the hell they had to play against in the first 2 weeks. The two-headed monster that is Nick Chubb and why am I forgetting his name? Thank you, Kareem Hunt. And then, of course, Lamar Jackson has an absolutely amazing game this past week. So you have to take that into the context of where the rushing yards are come from. So, yeah, the Chargers are going to have to stay balanced, but you're also going to have to execute. We talked about this earlier on in the week. It's not just from the standpoint of the game plan, because, yes, a little bit of this falls on Joe Lombardi. But at the end of the day, the players are going to have to execute. You can't have these drives where you're getting at the 25-yard line and then false start or an phantom illegal shift. And that just takes the complete momentum out of the game, because you know that if that happens on a first or a second down, it just historically, when these types of things have happened in the past, the wheels just come off the rest of the drive and the Chargers aren't able to do anything with it. And when you do those type of mistakes in the red zone, it's absolutely killer, especially when you have to settle for field goals against this Kansas City team. So long story short, Dan, to your question, who can stop the Chargers? It's the Chargers. Justin Herbert has to be money on this game.
But the thing is, he's still.
I know what you're about to.
He'll be money. He was money the last 2 weeks.
I know what you're about to say. I was just going to allude to it. Everybody wants to pigeonhole the 2 touchdowns to 3 interception stats that he has this year.
Bullshit.
People are saying that it's a sophomore slump. No, it's not any of that. Currently, Justin Herbert is in the top 5 of your quarterbacks passing yards in the league right now. Did you watch some of the throws that he was making last week? See Keenan Allen, see Austin Ekeler. Go look at that. Those are not evidence of a sophomore slump. What Justin Herbert, obviously, his success is going to rely on is also going to be a clean pocket. So as you said, Dan, the offensive line has to be better this week. Because if Storm Norton can give up the type of game that he did to a Micah Parsons, who hadn't played defensive end since high school, then what's he going to do against the likes of Frank Clark if somehow he's able to play? I know he's doubtful for this game. But any of the other pass rushers that go up against him, what are you going to do?
No, and look, there's meat on the bone across this defense. Like, you go and listen to folks in Kansas City, like, their defense is getting up all kinds of broken tackles. Like, they're missing lots. They're not good. Like, they're not good. And we just saw that in theory against the Cowboys, and you saw the Chargers beat the Chargers. But, like, as much as you want to say their defense is good, like, how about their first 3 weeks? They've had to go up against the Browns, the Ravens offense, and now the Chargers offense back to back to back. So we can sit here and bitch about how our schedule is a gauntlet, but, like, it's not just us. So, like, we have an opportunity to put the Chiefs at 1-2 and have them be having a losing record for the first time that I can remember. Or the Chargers could be 1-2. Like, it's a big game. Like, this is a huge game. This is the first time Justin Herbert is going to be in stadiums with fans in stands that are that crazy. Like, the atmosphere in DC, rocking. Nothing like we were going to see at Arrowhead. Nothing. Like, this is about as good as it gets, but I love how Justin Herbert comes to these games prepared. Like, I'm not worried about him in this. I really am not. The things that worry me about this offense, I'm not worried about us driving down the field. It's just, can we finish? We can't just kick field goals against this team. And so, like, we got to have some ballsy plays. We got to have 4th down conversions. We got to get touchdowns. Like, you just got to go for it. And so when you look at this game, Jake, if you're looking at, like, statistics, for example, like last week, Justin Herbert had 300 and something yards. Keenan Allen balled out. Mike Williams balled out. Asante got a pick, still lost. Like, what statistic or statistics are you going to be looking for that do you think will most likely determine the outcome of this game?
Turning the ball over, number one. I'd like to see Justin Herbert have his first clean game. Kansas City's not going to make that easy for him. But overall, You said the stats about Kansas City's red zone defense, Dan. Capitalize on that. If we're talking about as bad of the Chargers' red zone woes are, here's your opportunity to rectify that, because we know that you can move the balls in between the 20s. So if there is a better opportunity for you to score points on a team that you have to score points, there is no question about it. If there's any way to get over your red zone woes over the first 2 weeks of the season, this would be the defense to do it in based off the stats.
So Jake, I've been hearing rumblings about this, and I find this asinine, but I'm just going to repeat it for your reaction. Jake, this defense, this team looks just like it did a year ago. Nothing's changed under Brandon Staley than what we saw with Anthony Lynn. This is dumb. What say you?
No. No. I don't agree with that at all. Maybe it looks different to some people, considering the fact that the Chargers are not behind by 2 touchdowns and have to play catch up toward the end of the game. Maybe their first 2 games have been a lot closer. Maybe the only thing that, Dan, that I would say different, but this mistake quickly got rectified in 1 week, was that I said I was a little bit surprised that they didn't get Austin Ekeler involved early in the passing game in week 1. They fixed that in week 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see this team running on 2nd and 15 that we were all so pissed off about when that would happen, when we knew that we wouldn't be getting any positive yardage. This offensive line, if there's any takeaways that you can keep to yourself, despite what just happened in Dallas, go back to the Washington game. Do you remember how clean of a pocket that Justin Herbert had? That he never had through the games that he had in 2020?
I honestly am curious. Like I'm sitting as you're talking about this, I'm trying to think. Has there been one coaching gaffe that you can think of right now?
Coach, like what? Just like coaching mistake?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure there are things you can question, but like last year, there were a billion times where we're like,
you could
literally on Sports Center
every 5 minutes of a game.
Like, has there been any of those yet?
No, I haven't.
I don't
the only thing that I would probably say that would be in question is that you should have given Storm Norton some help on the right side when Micah Parsons had blown past him for his 4th pressure of the game. So you needed to get him help earlier. It did eventually happen, and you saw the results of it. It calmed down a little bit. Didn't completely stop it, but it calmed down a little bit. But yeah, that might be the only thing that I could possibly say that I have a real issue with in a negative way.
So, it's go time, Jake. Bold predictions.
Oh, no.
Bold predictions. Final predictions. Coming up. But before that, keys to success. You said turnovers. That's a stat we're going to look for.
Mm-hmm.
If the Chargers win this game, they must do blank. I mean, you can't say turn the ball over less than the Chiefs. Like, give me some more of that.
I mean, what everybody probably predicts about this game is that it has that shootout, mentality to it, that it's going to be that. Both teams are capable on getting points on one another. It's just, can the Chargers capitalize on every single time that they get the ball like the Chiefs so historically tend to do? Mm-hmm. And can you limit the amount of opportunities that Patrick comes on the field? Because you're not going to stop him. So some trends that the Chargers have done that have been positive is that they've been able to put together a number of long drives. Go back to Washington. I think there was like 3 or 4 drives that they had that were either 5.5 minutes or more that took so much time off the clock. The only thing that you would have loved to have seen is that final score should have been a lot higher if the Chargers either A, didn't turn the ball over in the red zone, or B, was able to put up touchdowns instead of field goals.
Chargers lead the NFL in time of possession.
There you go. How about that? Something else that's different than Anthony Lynn's led offense. Give me a break. So yeah, you're going to have that same type of mentality. I know it sounds easy. I know this is something, Dan, that you and I have said before. This isn't anything that's different. But when you look at what teams have done to them in the past, yeah, you're going to have to do that. Unfortunately, you cannot rely on your defense and your front four to get after Patrick Mahomes on his own. And so what does that mean? You're not going to be able to blitz. You're going to have to come up with a creative way to disguise the coverage, as you said. So offensively, you know what you need to do. Defensively, it's a big question mark. Just you gotta slow the hemorrhaging. You're going to hemorrhage. Be prepared. You're going to hemorrhage in this game. But just can you slow the bleeding when it matters most?
All right, let's get into it, Jake. Prediction time. Give me one offense and one defensive prediction and your final score prediction, sir.
I just went off on that whole rant right now, Dan, so please give me your prediction before I give you mine.
Here we go. Bold prediction on offense. Justin Herbert's going to throw for 400 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't even know if that's bold. I'm going to go...
It's not the boldest thing.
No, I know. I'm going to go Josh Palmer is going to get 70 yards and a touchdown.
Wow.
So I
70
think
yards and a touchdown.
This is going to be a Josh.
He's your key player to the game. 70 yards and a touchdown.
No. 400 yards on offense. I think he's going to be passing it. So 70 is still giving a lot to other people. And on defense, I think we are. See, this is the homer in me, but I'm gonna own it. I think we're gonna see an interception.
Here it comes
from the young safeties, not named Derwin James.
Is he gonna catch one this time? Because he's had 2 opportunities in the first 2 weeks to catch some.
And we're gonna see that train get hyped up. So young guy gonna get an interception in the secondary, and then final score. Oh man. Nikes. I'm going to go 34-30 in favor of the Los Angeles Chargers. Chiefs are going to go to 1-2. It's going to feel so good. It's going to feel so good, Jake.
Just a quick recollection. Maybe there's been one game I can recall you not picking the Chargers to win. I mean, I'm just saying, this is the difference between you and I as far as being the optimist and the pessimist. So that's all I'm saying. Okay.
Hey, in the last 6 games, I have been right 5 times.
Okay, because you were the cause of the 4-game win streak.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Speaking it into existence last year. Thanks a lot for that.
Yeah.
Let's get away from that 5 out of 6 record, please. Anyways, okay. Time for the thing that I hate, my prediction. You go back and you look at the first game that Justin Herbert ever came into, those circumstances. Against the Chiefs, Justin Herbert had a masterful game. Even though the Chargers came away with a loss, Justin Herbert had a masterful game. As I said a few minutes ago, Justin Herbert is going to have to be nails in this game. You cannot turn the ball over. You cannot. It's backbreaking, especially if it happens in the red zone for a 3rd consecutive week. He has to cut down on this. I do believe that he will have another high stat game. I'll say 350 yards for him, Dan. And at times, he's going to make it look easy against this Chiefs team. They're going to get in a rhythm at some point in the game, and you're going to be like, oh my God, it's there. It's working. It's going. In that game that Justin Herbert made his debut, it was all Austin Ekeler and Keenan Allen on that game. Austin Ekeler had a fantastic game. Keenan Allen just had under 100 yards receiving. I don't want to obviously say the obvious answers because I think both of those guys should be intricate pieces to how you beat this defense. I think it would be nice to see the run game established a hell of a lot more. If this game can be won in the trenches, you got to be also balanced against this team. As you said, Dan, who wins the time of possession right now? It's the Chargers. Best way to do that and get that going is get your run game going on a nice pace. We saw Justin Jackson inserted into the offense, and he had a couple nice runs last week in Dallas. How about a three-headed monster if you can get Austin Ekeler, Justin Jackson, and the young kid Larry Roundtree in this game? That would be a nice little change of pace. But
the way to win.
The guy who I will say that will have a huge game on offense. The trend continues. Mike Williams.
Woo! Talk about it.
Mike Williams, I think, is going to be the key to this game. Joe Lombardi has to do one thing, though. If it's working for Mike Williams, do not go away from it, because you did that last week. You should have gone to him earlier. You didn't. When you did go to him, you didn't go to him often enough. So if you can go to him early and often, keep feeding him the ball. Because you know Keenan Allen is going to win his matchups. You know Austin Ekeler is going to win his matchups. Make them think about something else that's not going to pigeonhole Justin Herbert into only looking for one of these two guys and centralizing your offensive plan around that. Now, defense.
You are not feeling too hot about this defense.
I'm not feeling hot about the defense at all. I'm not. Given off of what I saw last week, this is the type of game that, much like Bill Belichick likes to do, where he'll always exploit the opposing team's biggest weakness.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt Andy Reid is going to think to do the same, because just like the Chargers want to do from an offensive perspective for these long drives to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, you know that the Chiefs are going to plan their offense the exact same way to
100%.
limit Justin Herbert. So, redemption game for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, possibly in the books. We know Justin Jones is he's doubtful. He's probably not going to be a go on Sunday. We saw what this run defense looked like without him. So you're not going to shore up this porous run defense in 1 week.
You're not making me feel too confident, Jake.
This is what I do, Dan. So Patrick Mahomes is going to go over 300 yards passing. He's probably going to have at least 2 touchdowns. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'm going to say, is going to have at least 90 yards. He's going to punch one in the end zone. Here's the key player I'll say for you on defense, Dan. Actually, I take that back. I have to go 2 of them, because I'm interested to see how they're going to utilize him, especially with Chris Harris not playing this game. I really want to see how they're going to utilize Asante Samuel Jr. in this game. Are you strictly just going to keep him on the outside, or because of the fact that Derwin James' responsibility should be to occasionally blitz or take Travis Kelce completely out of this game? And are you going to sprinkle him in the slot, which I would really like to see that type of diversity. Also, Kaiser White. I have a feeling Kaiser White is going to have a monster game this Sunday. I don't know how. I don't know where he's going to make his presence felt, but
I hope you're right.
One way or another. Given all that, Dan. Given all
Here we go. It was all rainbows and butterflies for about 10 minutes, and then now it's going to come crashing down.
I can't bring myself to. Dan, I hope that you're right. And
me too.
We saw in 2018. It's not impossible, but the Chargers literally had to score on a last-second play to beat Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead that year. It's going to take some miracle just like that for them to win this game. And because of that, and especially for the Chiefs coming off of their own loss themselves, unfortunately, I have to say it, 35-32 in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, man. I can't blame you, though. I can't blame you. Look, I'm just excited to see this damn game. There are so many good matchups that we're going to see that, like, I don't know, man. I'm just ready for Sunday. I'm ready. 10 o'clock game. We get it early. Imagine the euphoria.
Oh man! Like I said,
if at 1:15,
I
We're
will
sitting
have
here.
that. I'll see it when I believe it. Tweet ready to go.
You ready? Finger on the trigger.
If we get a Chargers victory come Sunday, I will have it ready to go, as well as the entire Chargers fan base should have one ready to go.
Yep. Well, folks, next time we see you will be after this game. Chargers versus the Chiefs this Sunday in Arrowhead. We have had 2 interviews, one with Adam Teicher, the other with the man, the myth, legend from The Athletic.
It's been a busy week. We had to play a little bit of catch up.
Yep. We got a lot of stuff going on this week, and now it is game time. We get to see what happens on the field. Nate Taylor talked about it. There were 5 key elements to stopping the Chiefs of getting a win. Turnovers. Jake's already laughing under his breath. Turnovers. Chaos. Don't blitz. I forgot the other 2, but we've talked about them on the show. We got to do all 5 to have a chance. Can we do it? We will find out on Sunday. For Jake Hefner and his excellent haircut and great
Haircut.
12 o'clock shadow. You can find him on Twitter at Jake T. Hefner, myself at Chargers Homer. Find us again at LAC_Unleashed. And of course, give us a subscribe, a like, and a follow wherever you find us. Thank you so much. Enjoy this, Bolt fam. Have a great rest of the afternoon. Enjoy the weekend and enjoy football with fans in the stands on Sunday. Let's get that W, Bolt Nation. Let's go. Bolt up.